Oh my gosh, Valerie, we have a lot to unpack today.
We sure do.
And listeners, we have been on a journey this season talking about wellness design as a philosophy, not as a style. So the whole idea and theme and concept behind this whole season, very important, is that if you want to accomplish and experience wellness and well-being in your world, yes, drink the green juices, eat the healthy food, very, very important, but your environments play a massive role in how we feel and live every day. And your emotional well-being and your physical well-being and your spiritual well-being are so important. And so to accomplish this, what we've been talking about is the resonant framework. And this is how we go through design to accomplish this end result. You can't just design, throw a couple plants in and, have lots of exposure to natural light and hope for accomplishing well-being in a space.
Absolutely.
It's not how it works.
No.
You have to dig deep. And if you've been following us, what you've learned on the last, 3 episodes, that the resonant framework has dimensions. The first dimension being identity. So discovering who you are and really making sure that your space resonates you. And the second dimension being behavioral, ritual aspect, and that making sure that your space resonates your behaviors. And then the third aspect and the third dimension of the resonant framework is the relational aspect. You have to have all these elements and these dimensions to accomplish well-being, right? The identity has to be reflected in the space. The behaviors have to be reflected in the space. And you also have to have the connection and the space. This is where those meaningful connections happen, not even just with others, but with yourself. And so really making sure that your space allows for those connections to happen is part of the resonant framework to accomplishing well-being. But there's a fourth dimension.
Yes, there is.
And that's the how.
Yeah.
And this is where it all comes together, right?
My favorite part.
It is my favorite part too, because this is really about the design. We were talking about, I think a lot of people can figure out sort of, okay, here's my favorite colors. This is who I am. I'm outgoing, or this is what I love, and really start to create an environment that reflects who they are. Mm-hmm. I think you can really talk about behaviors and making sure your space is functional, right? So the storage and the layouts, everything flows. That's what really behavioral lifestyle in the environment reflects, is flow, right? That the space flows with you. That's all part of well-being and wellness. Then the relational aspect. So I think you can sort of figure that out, positioning your chairs in such a way that, you make eye contact and so forth. But it's the how, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This is how the space feels alive. This is what we do every day to bring these dimensions together and then bring it to life.
Very well said. Yeah. I think there's an underlying artistry that really, it starts with that foundation. We have to have all these pieces to our puzzle to kind of make it all make sense. But we're really, when we design something, we're looking at it in all of those facets and in a deeper level of how all these elements and the materials and the principles of design, how they all come together so they can be in harmony and support you all in the way that we're talking about. That's no small feat.
It is no small feat, and don't we know it?
Yeah, we do.
Because we've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. And so, I think there's something to think about here when it comes to design. I think there's a lot of people out there who are professed, designers, meaning they can pull, they're great with color. They've got a great eye for color and they can pull it all together. There's other people out there who are like, no, who's going to do this for me? This is not my cup of tea. And then there's trained professional designers, and that's where we fall. And so, when it comes to creating a space to honor well-being, and it gets very personal, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much behind that we can't just stop with, okay, it's reflecting who we are. It's reflecting our behaviors. It's really radiating connection. But true design happens in the how. Mm-hmm. And instinct is good, right? Instinct is very good. We use our instincts all the time. We're trained for repetition and color and all of the design elements that go into a space, pattern, contrast. All of those design aspects are crucial in creating a well-balanced, cohesive design. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like an artist. You brought this up, This is the artistry. And so there's something really magical that happens at this stage for us. And that's what I want to talk about with our listeners today. We've really talked about how, we've challenged our listeners. Today, I want our listeners to understand what true design is all about and how we accomplish wellness through design and through these design principles and through design experiences. This is the heart and soul of bringing a space to life. And we're not passionate about that at all. Shall we do it?
Let's dig in.
What do you think, Valerie? Do you think that great design to achieve wellness can be trained?
I think there's certain parts of it that, can be trained or are learned over, time. Things that, are really the core of like kind of just being just a good designer, the knowing scale and proportion and harmony and some of those different design elements. That's all part of it. But I think, as we started to kind of touch upon, there's a lot of it it is the intuition. And what is intuition? It's a feeling, right? We have a unique approach to how we design because we truly are putting emotion and feelings into our designs. And it's really just this deeper level that I feel like you either have it or you don't. Like that's either a part of who you are and how you can express, or it's not. What do you think?
I do. I think it's interesting. Let me ask another question. Do you think instinct comes from experience? I think that could play a little bit of a role in it. We've been doing this for 20 years. So I can tell you with certainty that it took 20 years to become a color specialist, right?
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't 10 years ago, but even as you live and breathe and work in this realm, you get a trained eye.
Absolutely.
Right? You have a trained eye for color.
Yes.
So when we're looking at something, then instinct comes into play, and it may be part of that training.
I agree.
That makes the instinct so natural.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
But we have this other sort of layer that is this idea that we've been creating wellness spaces.
Exactly.
And not to confuse wellness design with creating wellness spaces. Two different things. Wellness design is a philosophy and a process for creating well-being for a person. And it's through design and the resonant framework that we're able to accomplish that. On top of that, we've been creating wellness spaces and spaces for beauty, spaces in hospitality. And so we have a unique approach to design because of those unique experiences repeated hundreds of times over again each year. It's hundreds every year. Hundreds.
And they're all unique and they're
all unique.
All different.
It's an experience that you can't really put a price tag on necessarily. And I think it's that learned aspect of creating these wellness spaces. We understand connection, we understand identity, because these businesses that we create have brands that we're looking to develop. So we really understand the depth of how important it is to create a space that fits the brand identity, and that same idea can happen in your home.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about home and hospitality and wellness for, it seems like forever, but yet it's still not really a mainstream idea. But I think for us, there's always been that connection between what a hospitality environment, that experience that you get, that experiential design that is trying to be accomplished in a hospitality environment, and how that same sort of thought process and thinking, you can do that at home. And there's really this synergy between the two that I think we've really uncovered as part of our signature style, our directive of how we look at design.
That's right, because beauty and wellness and spa is hospitality. It's an important aspect of hospitality. And so how that happens in the home, I think, is really important. And I think that's something, I agree, we've been talking about this for a long time, but now we're really starting to see this come to life, right? And to your point, if you do a search for wellness design, it's not a term that's searched that much, which is the whole reason we're doing this podcast, is to draw attention to the fact that wellness design isn't just about putting plants in your home and making sure you have the right filtration system in your home, and you have good clean air and views to natural elements and light. That's so important. It really is. But there's more to wellness design, and there's more to space design that goes beyond just putting a plant in a space and hoping to accomplish that aspect of well-being. It's so much deeper. Nobody's talking about this.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, but it's just like, almost like we put a Band-Aid on wellness, like it's so superficial in some ways, that people are trying to achieve wellness through that, when in actuality, they're missing that whole human part of it that is the most important part of how humans connect with space, and how that space should be there to support you in all these different ways. And so putting a plant or talking about like the natural light or this, sure, those are all parts of things, but you're just kind of putting a fix on it. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I have a wellness space now. And so I think that's what we're saying here today, is there's so much deeper connection and deeper meaning behind all the things that, and you can have this. You can have
absolutely
a well-designed space.
And that's, I think you just hit it. You just uncovered something for me, is, in design, when we went to school and you talk about the true, what is the role of an interior designer, and what do they do? And it's all about the human condition, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the wellness aspect. And you were saying we're putting a Band-Aid on that. And I think you're exactly right. Nobody's married the two.
No.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're marrying what an interior designer is truly meant to do, and why we went to school for it all these years ago. and this sort of wellness trend and, a well space, but we're bringing it together to create something that's magical. And that is where the magic happens.
I just got chills.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the how. This is why it's important to talk about, because I don't want our listeners to miss this.
It's so important.
It's so important. And then we're woven into all that. It's the 20 years, Valerie,
Yeah.
this woven into it is this experience with understanding design and the design principles and, contrast and pattern and, all of these aspects of what good design really entails. And then there's the wellness component, making sure the space is a well space, bringing in this aspect of the human condition and who we are. And something magical happens.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of my favorite parts of the design process, if we can venture down that road.
Do tell.
Yes. So, when we start off and we really have this great foundation, and it's so important for us to really be, keen in our observation and our almost like we're like detectives, I would say. We're trying to uncover and get to the root of what it is what makes a person tick, what's important to them, their motivations, their all these pieces to the puzzle of the resonant framework. And once we have those and we start to put our own puzzle together of how this is supposed to look and feel, I feel like that's the magic that we're talking about. We start to kind of peel back these layers of different parts of the design, and all of a sudden it's like, bam, there it is. Like, there's the design. Like, we've gotten to that level, to that point where we are so excited about it. We clap. This is
we
true.
Do clap.
True
We're
story.
clappers. We're clappers.
We are clappers. And that I feel like when we get to the point where we're ready to clap about a design,
we hit it.
We did it. We did it. We can feel confident that we're moving in the best direction, for this client.
There's, oh my gosh, there's so much to say about all this. Let me start by, I almost clapped. There's so much to say about this. Two things, don't let me forget this. Okay, first of all, you're starting to describe the design process, which we always describe as a funnel. So you have the top of the funnel, it's a wide mouth, and it's a lot of information. And throughout the process, we chisel away to get to the final result. And to your point, there comes a point in the design, and that's when we've hit it.
Yeah.
That's the clap. That's like, we did it. And it was almost painstaking. We've talked about this. We lead our clients through this funnel, and we're asking questions, and we're being intuitive, and we're listening, and we're uncovering, we're discovering, we're asking, chiseling. But there comes a point where we step into the zone, and that's in the 3D realm. That's something we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Once we get into the 3D realm, that's where the magic happens. But even there, we're chiseling away and studying and morphing and designing. This is our artist now. Now we're true artists at this point. So if you think about an interior designer being creative and not being creative, right? There's so many aspects to interior design that are not about creativity, right? It's about, asking the right questions, organization. There's so much that goes into being strategy. And that's all like sort of right-brained. So we have to use our right brain and our left brain. In very few professions, maybe there's more. Go ahead, challenge me. That's fine. That have to use both in such clarity and detail. But we're using our right brain for the top part of the funnel, all the way down. But then when we switch to that left brain thinking, and that is for us done in the 3D realm, we turn into artists.
Absolutely.
And that's where we really dig deep and we dive. Now it's just us. and we're going.
Yeah.
We're like, yes, no, change, no, move the, it's,
Yeah.
and we're forming, it's sort of like a sculpture where we're just like forming it until it's like, we got it. We got it. We got it. We got it. And I'll even go as far as to say that's the moment where I, in design, do something, because I'm the main communicator with the client, and I do something that you're not supposed to do. And that's to tell your client before they've even seen the end result, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I love it. I love this. And the customer's going, what? I want to see. I want to see. So you've set yourself up for failure, right? But it never happens like that. They ultimately fall in love. And the way I've explained it to our clients is I have to love it first. And I know when I love it, they're going to love it. 9 times out of 10. There's always work to be done, and there's always, adjustments to be made. But we know we're 85% there once we get to that point. And then it's tweaking and morphing and adapting and changing. It's fun.
I love that. I love that part, that you just can't wait to share. But I think, another mark of like a great design for me is when I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to have this. Like I want this. Like I don't even know where, or there's no context of like how I could put this insert this in my own life. But that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I love that so much is like such an awesome feeling, when you feel like everything's right about it, and it's just an amazing design.
You got it right there. When everything's right about it, it's because at that moment we've stepped back. All right, now we've got the sculpture and it's right in front of us, right? But then we've gone back and we're like, okay, the brand is there, the identity is there, the function's there, the why is there, the connection is there, like everything that needed to happen to bring the space to life and to be successful is there.
Yeah.
And that's when it's one thing to just create a beautiful space.
Absolutely.
It's another to know we hit every dimension of the resonant framework.
Yeah.
All right, there it is.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the good question then. Based on that whole aspect of how we bring this space to life, is there any patterns or truths that emerge for you, when you really think about this, that even our listeners can take away from this in terms of, we're describing how we bring a space to life and our thinking behind it, weaving in our experience, and, it's process driven, it's right brain driven, it's, we're using our left brain, all of these aspects. But is there any patterns or truths that our listeners should know and understand?
Well, I mean, the first thing that came to mind was just there's some consistent kind of elements that, are always, I feel like, are always true to our signature style in wellness design. And, that is, they don't always have to be placed or used in the same way, but I feel like that's kind of like part of our little secret sauce, but I feel like there's always such a beautiful use of contrast, of organic, elements, of kind of texture, those sorts of things. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. There are what we call our secret sauce. And I think I want to talk a little bit more about that. I want to talk about contrast, right? Because we feel, although there are some spaces that we've designed that are just so beautiful and monochromatic, but there's contrast done in, there's still contrast.
Yeah, exactly.
There's still contrast. And so I think that's something that, this is a design principle, but we always look at this aspect of contrast when we're studying a design and we're looking at it, and something's missing. one of the first things we say is it missing contrast? It's missing contrast.
It is. Yeah, most often it is.
It's missing contrast.
Yeah.
And that could be, it doesn't have to be like white and black, right?
No.
It could be light and dark. It could be light wood, dark wood. It could be light taupe, dark taupe. So I think that's in one aspect of design that we never leave out of any design.
Because I think contrast, if you don't have it, it just leaves the space just feeling flat. It feels just not, it doesn't have that kind of the depth to the space. And, when we're talking about wellness and connection to space and into these different elements that we're talking about, I think you can't have a flat looking space.
No, it doesn't speak.
It doesn't.
That's the alive part, because that's what we're saying. What we do as designers is we bring a space to life. And I think exactly what you're saying, that you can't have a space that is alive without the contrast.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Little movement, I think is another aspect of it. But let's talk about the organic component.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an interesting one. And it's, of course, dear to my heart because I love flowers and nature and everything like that. And this doesn't mean that you have to throw a green wall in your house or have, 5 10-foot palm plants surrounding your, living space, or even for that matter, use bold floral patterns. Of course, those are all options, right?
They are options.
But I think, for a person who's maybe they want something just a little more understated or more subtle, there's so many different options that are out there in wall coverings and more abstract or painterly representation of movement and flow, and giving that kind of natural elements, that
you're exactly right. In a modern space, nature can be brought in just by even a porcelain tile. These movement through marble and travertine and onyx and these natural stones is, to your point, most people think about, green plants in terms of bringing in nature, but you can bring in nature in a modern environment just through these patterns that are found in nature. Even the aspect of, this idea of lighting and having an artful quality about it that has elements of nature in the lighting, I think is something we do. Lighting is key to we talk about like sort of the must-have, and it's lighting.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't mention that one, but yes, that's
lighting is everything.
Lighting is everything. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we do. When we think about lighting, we think about it from several dimensions. So we think about lighting as architectural, meaning, this indirect lighting, hidden lighting, cove lighting, this architectural aspect of lighting is something we try to incorporate in all of our spaces. Then there's general lighting or ambient lighting. That's your can lights or hi-hats, as you might refer to them, your, sort of your general lighting in the ceiling. And then there is the, sort of the pendants and the more decorative lighting. And that's where I think this aspect of lighting can be very artful. And that's something we love. And we're very passionate about that decorative lighting. And here we go talking about these layers of lighting, right? So you have this architectural thing happening. You have the ambient light thing happening. Then you have the, this decorative, beautiful lighting happening in a form of a light sconce or a pendant or a chandelier. And then there's the hospitality aspect, which is the table lamps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of like your low level lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And all four of those play an important role in the designs that we create. We talk a lot about, lighting is everything. This is something that I think our listeners really need to be thinking about. We touched about this in even our last episode that, the lighting has to be warm. Sometimes when we're exploring our designs in the 3D realm, we could just see that the lighting is looking too cold, and right away we notice that there's a problem. The other thing that we look for all the time is that all of the lighting matches, so that you're using the same color temperature lighting in all of those layers of lights, from your ambient lighting to your table lamp. They should all be the same color lighting.
It's like putting on 2 different colors of socks.
Correct.
Like, please don't.
Don't. Yeah, no, it'll make me angry.
Yeah.
I don't like different color lights in a room. I'm a, professed lighting snob, and I really can get offended from bad lighting. And I'll be driving by a nail salon, I'm just going to say it, and I see all these varying colors of, they think they're doing a great job by throwing this like
beautiful little pendant.
Beautiful little pendant on this
Yeah.
side, and they got the other chandelier happening over here, and the color lighting temperature is so different from the other. And I'm looking at this space and I'm like, you're trying too hard, but you're not trying at all. If you're going to try that hard,
yeah,
do it right.
Do it right.
Okay, but that's why you're listening. Sorry.
Yeah.
There I go. I can get angry about that.
Bring it down.
Bring it down a notch. Yes, bring it down a notch, Michelle. Okay, so we talked about the contrast. We talked about nature. We talked about lighting. Valerie, elaborate on the artistic part of design.
So that is truly like that. What brings me joy and happiness in life is the creative part of bringing a space to life. So I think the artistic side of that really, I feel like I draw on just different experiences that I've had throughout my life of, I like to paint, I like to draw, I like to be creative. There's pretty much, I would say there's nothing you could give to me in a creative realm that I wouldn't be like excited about trying. And so for me, everywhere I look, I see, these elements and these ideas, and I love being able to put this creativity to use by finding new ways to innovate, whether it's, we were just talking about like organic detail, pattern found in nature, finding a way that it's like, okay, well, how can we make that new, fresh, and something unique that's unique to you and to your project, to your brand, to your, and that's something that really excites me, and is such a part of, I think, our process and my process of when I look at a design.
It's the same thing as a successful art piece, right?
Yeah.
When you look at a successful art piece, or what is deemed to be a very successful artist or creation by an artist, it's no different in interior design, right? What makes a successful art piece different? It's the uniqueness, right? It's the proportion, it's the balance of color and light, and all of these aspects that happen, form, that go into these art pieces, the absence of color potentially, right? There's something about the piece that resonates with the viewer and how people view something. And this idea of creating art and successful art at that, is no different than creating a successful interior design.
I love that.
Guys, what we're talking about here is the resonant framework. If well-being and wellness is important to you, and we're living, working, breathing, functioning in these spaces, in your home every single day, in your place of business, if that's important to you, and you're understanding the importance of these dimensions of the resonant framework. And you get to the how. If you're going to invest, we talk about this with our clients all the time, you want to yield a good return on your investment. So if you're planning for a big project, if you're thinking about building a home or renovating your home, and you are really wanting to make sure that the end result is going to yield the best return, meaning your emotional, your physical, your spiritual well-being, how you feel in this space, how you live in this space, who you aspire to be in this space. And the space reflects that back to you. That's the whole thing about resonance. Mm-hmm. And the way that happens is through the how.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here today. And that's where a professional interior designer comes into play. Color is great. And, there's a lot of professed design, people out there who understand design and general principles and things like that. But if you're wanting to bring this full circle, the how is that high level professional interior design. I think we talked about that, emotional aspect of living and even reflection is architectural, meaning design has the power to change lives. And I encourage our listeners to think about hiring a professional interior design firm and going that extra mile to bring the space full circle, to bring your dreams alive. Next episode, Valerie, what we're going to talk about is the why. So we went through the last 4 episodes of the resonant framework, but there's a center to the resonant framework. It's sort of the foundation, and that's the why. And that's what we're going to talk about in our next episode. So listeners, stay tuned. Join us on our next episode. And if you have any thoughts, questions, please drop us a line. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely.